Bible college was very gay. When I showed up to Bible college, I wouldn't have called myself gay yet. Not because I wasn't, but because you'd be amazed what you can avoid never putting a word to. I wasn't gay. I just would sometimes go on Yahoo and type in Nicomen, and then be shocked every time at what came up. Yahoo had a dirty mind, I tell you. So this one time, my first week at Bible college, I'm journaling on my iBook. It was a 900 megahertz G3 model. I loved that computer. I'm sitting in the sub lounge of my dorm, which was basically this room that had 3 couches and a coffee table with a hallway down the middle between 2 clumps of 8 dorm rooms. Now, when I say I was journaling, of course, I mean I was writing about how I didn't understand why God would let me have these lusty feelings towards other guys. I'd always done my best to be a good Christian. I didn't lie, I didn't cheat, I didn't smoke or do drugs. I was about as good of a church chicken as could be. So then why had I been afflicted with this horribly sexy thorn? Because I was so far in the closet, I was hanging out in Narnia, and Mr. Tumnus was sure as hell annoying. I think at the time I was actually writing a little a kind of parody version of the song "Oh to Be Like Thee" about just how I really wished I was straight. I can't remember exactly what the words were, but it was probably something like "Oh to be like thee, fixated on boobs." I was never terribly musical, believe it or not. So as I'm pouring out my feelings into my laptop, into a text edit file, which would then be stored in a password encrypted disk image, because I did not want anyone ever reading what I was writing, I heard a ruckus, including whooping and hollering as a group of 10 to 12 strapping young gentlemen who had just finished playing a pickup game of football came down the hall. And as young men are apt to do, they played the game as shirts versus skins. As I'm writing this, my Apple Watch just gave me a heart rate warning. As I remember this story, it was awkward. What were their names? Oh, who cares? Well, I would eventually go on to become good friends with several of them. At this point in my life, they were just hot dudes 1 through 12. Of course, when they came into the sub lounge, several of them felt a need to position themselves on said couches in the sort of positions that can only be possible when you're young and fit and nothing aches and climbing on things is fun. Within seconds, I was surrounded, and everywhere I could look inspired both guilt and tingling places that I would have preferred not to tingle. I quickly closed my laptop, lest anyone read my plight. Several of them I'm sure said hi, and I imagine I nodded politely while making sure to keep my eyes locked on socially acceptable places. Then all of a sudden, hot guy number 3, the one who liked to wear his baseball hat backward, said, "Wow, my abs look great in this reflection." Indeed, due to the angle of the bay windows in the room, as well as the position of a single overhead fluorescent light, his abs did in fact look very good in the reflection. Though personally, I think anyone with discernible abs ought to learn to love themselves. What happened next was that any guy who had still been wearing their shirt immediately removed it, and they all stood in a line to take turns flexing in this one spot, looking at their reflection in the mirror, as they all commented on each other and offered affirmation about their appearance. I was intrigued and terrified that this was a real-world version of how several of those very inappropriate videos that Yahoo had shown me might actually start. Meanwhile, I was sitting there doing my best to keep my expression neutral. I couldn't flee, as my loins, though they may have been girded with the Holy Spirit, were more than willing to betray me, as I pressed my poor iBook down into my lap, probably applying enough bend pressure that I should have voided the warranty. That might have been one of the reasons why the logic board later failed that year. I suspect the whole episode only lasted a few minutes, but for me, it was a sexy eternity. And when the last of the hot guys had finally tired of their reflection in the windows, I was left alone in the sub-lounge. As soon as the coast was clear, I stood and quickly bolted for my dorm room. I closed and locked the door. I climbed under the covers, and the chicken wept.